Good evening, and it's good to have you join us on NTA International News. I am Abdul Malik Adil. The headlines. President Muhammadu Buhari orders investigation into cause of River State gas pipeline explosion, sympathizes with family of victims. Repositioning Nigerian's public service in focus as world marks Public Service Day. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for global action to address increased vulnerability worldwide. In 2003, the United Nations General Assembly, in its resolution, designated 23rd of June every year as the United Nations Public Service Day to celebrate the value and virtue of public service to the community. The day also marks the anniversary of the date when the International Labour Organization adopted the Convention on Labour Relations, a framework for determining working conditions for all civil servants across the world. Adebola Brooksland Sunday takes a look at the implementation of reforms towards repositioning the public service in Nigeria.
Civil servants play a vital role in the development of any nation. This is because they form larger percentage of the workforce in the public sector, and they are responsible for the implementation of government policies and programs.
Workers are the wealth creators of the economy, so they deserve a fair deal.
It is often said that an effective and efficient civil service will in turn bring out a performing government. Realizing this, Nigeria government has been all out to make life better for the nation's public servants through reforms, better remuneration, incentives, training, and provision of facilities.
The curriculum of our training programs has changed. It now has the ICT component, the entrepreneurship component. And the third part of it is the e-learning platform itself.
In performing their duties, the need to develop a risk assessment profile in terms of threats and hazards is one area the federal government is looking at in the formulation of policy.
The committee, being composed of professionals and experts in their own fields, will come up with a policy that would be sustainable in public emergency management.
This year, the day focuses on achieving the sustainable development goals through effective delivery of services, innovative transformation, and accountable institutions, and ensuring a public sector free of rancor between employees and their employers.
Best option is always dialogue, and this opportunity of negotiation is a very apt thing.
To encourage civil and public servants, the Assembly adopted that on the day a prestigious UN Public Service Awards be given. And in line with this, the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation ratified and adopted the expansion of rewards and recognition scheme proposal for workers.
And one of the ways to get our people to work hard is by institutionalization of rewards and recognition.
It's a good step in the right direction, and we must give kudos to His Excellency, the Mr. President.
As civil servants join their counterparts the world over in commemorating the day, and as governments continue to introduce programs that will better equip them, it is expected that public servants in Nigeria will in turn put in their best towards building a greater nation. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
Many thanks, Adebola, and I'm being joined in the studio by the Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Mrs. Winifred Oyoita. It's a pleasure to have you join us on NTA International Studio, and happy United Nations Public Service Day.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
The United Nations Public Service Day celebrates the value and virtue of public service to the community. How can we domesticate this when it comes to Nigeria?
Thank you. The public servant, as the name connotes already, is serving the people. And it is the public service that is actually the engine room of government's policies and visions. and how strong a public service, and especially a civil service, is to a far extent determines the level of socioeconomic development of that country. In fact, you can say that there is a direct correlation between a strong public service and a strong economy.
Looking at the growth so far, where is Nigerian worker when we talk about the government reforms of the public sector?
The Nigerian worker, I must say, has taken ownership of the current reforms in the public service. These reforms are reforms that have been developed and homegrown by the Nigerian worker. We, the Nigerian workers. When we started these reforms, we did not rely on, specialists or consultants from outside Nigeria or outside the civil service. These reforms were developed by Nigerians, by the Nigerian civil service, and are actually being piloted by Nigerian civil servants. And they believe in the reforms because they are already seeing it work.
Now, moving forward, issues of risk and hazard management in workplace is another area of attention in Nigeria during this celebration. How is this aspect being addressed so far?
The aspects of the risks and hazards in the workplace is really very important because for a long time most people do not believe that the work of the civil servant is actually a risky one. We need to assure civil servants that their work environment, their immediate work environment is safe and secure. We also need to assure them that if in the course of their carrying out their duties, they face any form of physical harm, there should be some compensation for them. And that is why the Employee Compensation Act and the Group Life Assurance Act is in place. So what is happening now is that we want civil servants to go beyond just what should come to them through the Group Life Assurance in the event of loss of life or the Employee Compensation Act, in the event of a loss of income or loss of mobility or as the case may be. We want also civil servants to know that if they perform their duties very creditably and there is any form of blackmail or aggression on them because of their performing their duties honestly and effectively and efficiently, they should have support from government. And this also goes to show through our rewards and recognitions system that we are putting in place.
It's good you talked about reward and recognition, but another aspect, of the civil service that's very, very crucial and critical has to do with training and retraining of civil servants, which the Public Service Institute is another strong amalgam under your administration. What's being done to ensure that, the civil servants in Nigeria actually get optimum training when it comes to, professionalism?
That's a very good question, because the recurring issue that has always come up about the quality of the civil service is the fact that there is a serious gap in the training needs of civil servants. We have developed the training needs assessment report, which has been launched, and right now we are putting it into effect. We are looking at training now from a very wide kaleidoscope of training options.
All right.
Starting from the induction. For a long time, induction of new intakes into the service had been jettisoned. So we have reintroduced the induction training on the level of the general induction and then the specialized induction for the various MDAs. We have also reintroduced the departmental training officers who are meant to work in their various MDAs as a link to the Office of Head of Civil Service of the Federation to ensure that training programs in the various MDAs are being effectively carried out and not just being handled as a welfare package. Then also, we have also looked at the structured mandatory training program. SMART P has been also reintroduced and improved. The various learning modules have been added to the SMART P. And then also the leadership development program, whereby we are identifying a crop of leaders, potential leaders that will grow in the service. And this we call the presidential cohorts. We also have a program with the private sector whereby we've identified the need for talent sourcing. We see that in the short run, we need to quickly have some skills in the service that should be applied effectively for the service.
It's good you're pointing out all of this and very much enlightened. But on your final note, and when you came on board, you came with a strategy which is called EPIC culture. Can you emphasize on what EPIC actually means? And this will go with your final work.
Thank you. The EPIC civil servant is that civil servant that we all want to be: efficient, productive, incorruptible, and citizen-centered. The EPIC civil servant is the civil servant that works with the knowledge that the government, the success of the government, and indeed the success of this nation rests on his or her shoulders. So we know that the EPIC civil servant already is getting a lot of support from the current administration under His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. And so not just for him, but for the Nigerians who believe in us. So the EPIC civil servant is the civil servant that every single public servant should aspire to be.
Many thanks, Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Winifred Oyota, right there. And moving on, as the world marks this year's International Widows' Day, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres appealed for reflection on the economic hardship and increased vulnerability of widows worldwide. United Nations Secretary General says, in the absence of social and legal protection, widowed women's lifetime earnings and savings are often too little to avoid poverty. Alika Opanachi Arawa tells us more on the plight of widows in Nigeria.
The death of a loved one, especially the breadwinner of the family, is a great loss to family members. Alice Jeremiah is a widow that was chased out with her children after the death of the husband. She was forced to disclose the assets her husband left behind to his relatives fighting to inherit his property.
But I want to thank God that although I'm a widow, I brave up and I was able to do those things that even my husband would do if he was alive.
Similarly, Adenike Olasoji and Bilkisu Usman, who recently lost her husband, recalled some of the challenges they faced.
When I lost my husband over some years ago, all the children are bothering that how are they going to survive in life? But I put my hope into the hands of God.
When you see those widows outside there, you go to rural areas and fetch them out. They are really suffering. Some no accommodation, no food for them to eat.
To mark this year's International Day for Widows, advocacy groups are appealing to the government to empower women in general and widows in particular to reduce their plight.
What we should do for indigent widows is that we ourselves should try and assist. People who are comfortable should try and assist others. But my advice to them is that they should not be lazy.
The choice of the 2019 theme towards progress for widows, many agree will drive home the message of advising their cause. In Abuja, Alika Opanachi Arawa, NTA News.
Federal government has commenced an interventory of project executed under the World Bank Agriculture Intervention Program known as FADAMA. This is coming as a financial support given to the program by the World Bank and Musa Babaliu report.
The World Bank Intervention Program is built on 5 components towards boosting Nigeria's agricultural activities and rural development. This consists of extension services, marketing of farm produce, access to loan facility and rural infrastructural development, including roads and markets. The initiative is designed to support cluster farming to increase production of cassava, rice, sorghum and horticulture value chains.
FADAMA, which has been on the ground for the past 25 years, has presented a landmark in the Nigerian agricultural sector.
This meeting of relevant key players from 17 states across the northern Nigeria is looking at achievements recorded by the World Bank Agriculture Intervention Program.
And to hold dialogue with state government to ensure that the legacies that have been established by this project are not allowed to die with the project.
So we created a FCA, FADAMA Federated, that will sustain what we have done. They may be looking for a way to find a revenue that will sustain them and what we have done to them.
Reports indicated that a total of 1.5 million metric tons of rice paddy was added to the nation's rice production food supply since the project's inception. Farmers produced 1.16 million tons of tomatoes, which is about 53% of the national annual production. Cassava, worth 41 billion naira under the project, was also produced and processed. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
You're watching NTA International News. A break beckons. When we come back, there will be more news. Do stay tuned. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with the government and people of Zamfara State on the recent infiltration of bandits who killed several innocent citizens in Tafse local government area of the state. Condemning the incident, President Muhammadu Buhari described the bandit attack as callous and despicable, assuring the people of Zamfara State and other Nigerians who have lost loved ones to violent attacks that the government, under the watch of President Muhammadu Buhari, will soon bring such dastardly act to an end. The President, in a statement from Senior Special Assistant to the President and Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, commends the new administration in the state for putting in new security measures to curtail the activities of criminals and bandits, while urging them not to despair, but to see the latest attack as a challenge to set up collective actions and rout the enemy in partnership with the federal government. Moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari has asked for a thorough investigation to determine what is responsible for the gas pipeline tragedy in Oyibo local government area of Rivers State, in which several fatalities were reported. A statement by Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President and Media and Publicity, says President Muhammadu Buhari, who is extremely pained on the loss of lives in the incident, expresses his condolence to the families of the victims, the government and the people of Rivers State. The incident, which reportedly occurred in Kumkum community of local government area on Saturday, occurred when workers were fixing a faulty section of the pipelines. Moving on, the Taraba State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in the Federal Capital Territory High Court, APO, has commenced hearing the suit filed by the All Progressives Congress candidate Sani Abubakar Danladi, challenging the emergence of Darius Dixon Isiaku of the People's Democratic Party as the winner of the 9th March governorship elections. The petition has submitted to the tribunal the voters' registration of 6 local government areas of the state, which is what is used as the evidence before the tribunal to support the alleged overvoting during the elections. The first, second, and third respondents, which are INEC, the People's Democratic Party, and Governor Darius Ishaku, objected to the move by the petitioners.
At the pre-hearing session, it was agreed that whatever objection any party has to any document, it will be taken as part of the final address. And that was why they were reserving their reasons for their objection.
Election petition is sui generis. It's a special precedence that if you are going to take every objections and rulings are given in respect of same, the tribunal will not conclude the trial.
The case has been adjourned to Wednesday, 26th of June for the continuation of the trial. Now, since licensed as one of the two broadcast signal distributor to midwife the Nigerian digital switchover on DSO and analog switch off ASO, Pinnacle Communication Limited has continued to show commitment to meet its obligations, to affirm its commitment to deliver on its mandate on the country's digital switch on. Technology partners of Pinnacle Communications Limited, Gates Air USA and Megahat UK are in Abuja to further encourage and reassure implementers of the policy. The report.
The first port of call by the delegation led by the chairman, Pinnacle Communications Limited, Sir Lucky Omolua, was the Nigerian Television Authority, where the Director General and Board Chairman of the Integrated Television Services Limited, ITS, the licensed public broadcast signal distributor, an arm of the NTA, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, received them.
We in NTA are proud to be associated with Pinnacles. To the representatives of Gates, I would like to also welcome you to Nigeria and to NTA.
For Sir Lucky Omolua, Pinnacle Communications Limited have in stock equipment for the DSO implementation in at least 5 new locations in Nigeria, ready for deployment as soon as government processes are completed.
The beauty now is that you can see that we're collaborating with ITS, and Gombe is almost ready. We're looking at Lagos, Kano, and Port Harcourt. There are still logistics, here and there that we need to fix. Once that is done, we're on.
And as Nigeria goes through this journey, we are honoured to be considered a part of it as a vendor of technology, and we're honoured to be a part of it with Pinnacle, and we're equally honoured to be invited here to NTA to again be a part of this continuing process.
Before leaving the country, the delegation was at the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, and also visited the Digital Transition Implementation Team, DigiTeam.
We are doing everything we can to ensure that lists where Pinnacle is operational, we should switch off.
The new timetable that we're working on actually has a plan for us to do switch off in Jos, in Abuja, in Ilorin, in Enugu, in Osogbo, all the places where we've done switch on.
As it stands, 6 states have been covered with ITS presence in Jos, Osun, Enugu, and Ilorin, while Pinnacle Communications have executed the DSO project in Abuja and Kaduna.
Now, President Muhammadu Buhari felicitate with Reverend Felix Maduoyo, God General Overseer of the Foursquare Gospel Church in Nigeria, on the occasion of his 70th birthday anniversary. The President recalls playing host to the General Overseer and leaders of the church at the State House, Abuja, when the church turned 60 years in Nigeria, and wishes the cleric long life as well as greater successes in the service to God and humanity. Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, in a statement, notes that the church sent a congratulatory letter to President Muhammadu Buhari on his re-election, and noted that President Muhammadu Buhari's appreciation of the Foursquare Gospel Church for fervent prayers for Nigeria at all times, particularly before the last general election, which contributed largely to the positive outcome of the exercise. Now, moving on, Obiageli Ugoke is standing by with stories that made headlines the outgone week.
Hello and a warm welcome to the world in 6 days. An engineering unit of the 22 Chinese peacekeeping force to the Democratic Republic of Congo is braving scorching temperatures to repair a damaged section of the highway assigned by the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The UN Refugee Agency UNHCR and Addis Ababa commenced close monitoring of the movement of people at Ethiopia-Sudan border. The UNHCR says it's been preparing for a possible influx of refugees due to instability in Sudan.
We continue to receive the numbers that we've been receiving in recent years. Sometimes it's negligible, sometimes it's a small spike.
In a related development, international humanitarian agencies have called for more assistance to tackle the crisis felt by a growing number of refugees and internally displaced persons in Nigeria and other West African countries. He says donor agencies are beginning to get fatigued in the face of the mounting humanitarian challenges in the West African sub-region. The developments emerged during the technical section of the decolonized meeting of the ECOWAS Parliament Joint Committee on Agriculture, Environment, Water Resources and Sustainable Development Infrastructure, Energy, Mines and Industry, Human Rights, Child Protection and other vulnerable groups ongoing in Lomé, Togo. In the meantime, South Sudanese has appealed for urgent humanitarian assistance to the tune of $12 million to enhance its campaign against Ebola after an outbreak of the deadly viral disease was reported in neighboring Uganda. The World Health Organization WHO says the risk of Ebola spreading to South Sudan is very high, so the government and the UN nations agreed that the $12 million amount would be needed to help prepare health workers. Meanwhile, China is set to step up efforts to strengthen customs check against Ebola given latest outbreak of the deadly epidemic in some African countries. According to a statement released by General Administration of Customs of China, the GSCC said it will implement stricter inspections to prevent the deadly Ebola virus from entering the country. That's the package. Thanks for your time. I am Obiageli Ugoke.
And that report by Obiageli concludes the NTA International News. I'm Abdul Malik Adil. Many thanks for watching.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria.